Due to Louisiana being very low in academic achievement compared to the rest of the United States, iReady is aiming to improve academic achievement. But at my current school, I feel like it isn't as effective as it could be. So this evaluation aims to assess the effectiveness of an iReady intervention plan on academic achievement in 5th through 8th graders. The overall goal of this evaluation plan is to determine the impact of an iReady intervention plan on academic student outcomes. And I just want to see, does increased iReady training and incentives improve student engagement? And then from there, is there a correlation between student engagement and academic growth? Ultimately, we would be inputting more teacher trainings, which would improve teacher knowledge of iReady, which would then allow them to increase the student incentives, and students would feel more agency over their iReady usage, which would allow for them to be way more engaged in their reading and math iReady lessons. Our data collection types will range between quantitative and qualitative. We will do staff interviews, which can be considered qualitative, a Likert scale student survey, which is quantitative, and academic assessments, which are also quantitative. I want to dive deeper into our data collection methods and what it will look like. So, for our staff interviews, the questions that we will ask are about their current feelings. Did they feel prepared? How did they explain it to their students? What incentives do they have in place? And ultimately, how could the implementation have been improved? These are the people that are in the seats that are giving it to the students. So, we genuinely want to hear from them. We also need to hear from students. We need to hear how they feel about it. So we're using a Likert scale student survey so that we can use it as quantitative data to see how much students agree or disagree with these statements. Did they understand how iReady worked? Are they rewarded for their usage? Do they feel like it helps them get smarter? And ultimately, are they motivated to do so? Now, we just also want the numbers to speak. So we want to use the academic assessments that are already embedded inside of iReady. iReady has beginning of the year, middle of the year, and end of the year assessments already embedded into their system that we would just take time for students to do, and we would track their score on each test. The test ranges from 60 to 90 questions and could be taken in about 90 minutes, which means that each question should take about a minute or less to answer. And it really is just to see where students are at in reading and math across each points of the year. The way that we would go about analyzing this data would really depend on the data we receive at the beginning, middle, and end of the year. These formative assessments are really going to help us drive as we move forward. Is the training working? Are the incentives working? So, the first way we would do that is by looking at our Likert scale student survey and seeing from the beginning, middle, and end of the year. Are things changing? Do kids agree with certain statements more? Do they strongly disagree with certain statements? And we're constantly analyzing that. At the same time, we're looking at the beginning, middle, and end of the year scores on their academic assessments, because then we can look at the end and say, what is the correlation? As we look at these graphs next to each other, what correlations do we see between whether or not students felt more motivated, and did that motivation end up leading to academic achievement and improvement? Because this is happening in a middle school, it felt very important to look at a timeline of milestones across an entire school year. So in New Orleans, our school year starts in August. So we have our pre service 2 week time where we learn everything that we need to learn for the school year. That would be at the time where teachers would be interviewed on how they felt about iReady in the past year, and they would be trained on iReady in a more effective way for this current school year. Once students enter into the building and classrooms have been set up and introductions have been done, then students would take their beginning of the year survey because they have taken iReady and they've done iReady a whole year prior. And they would also take their beginning of the year assessment, and that would be in September. Immediately after that, as soon as teachers get that data, they're going to implement incentives that are based on whether it be progress, growth, usage. That would have to be determined by the school team of how they're going to incentivize students, but the incentives would be implemented at that point. We would then take those, breaks for Thanksgiving, there's breaks for Christmas, but teachers would be interviewed again and they would be trained again, because at the middle of the year, now we need to look at that data again. We need to dig deep. We need to see, should we give them the same incentives? Should we look at things a little differently? What are the groupings looking like? So that when students get back, once we have that data and they've taken the middle of the year survey about how they feel about iReady and then the assessment academically, teachers can implement incentives and do rewards again immediately following that data. As a teacher, I've found that it's so important to reward students as soon as they've taken whatever the test is so that they remember this is what I'm getting rewarded for. Then we would continue with that process up until the end of the year, where they would take the end of the year survey and then they would take the end of the year assessment. We would then analyze all of that data and see, was it effective? In deciding how to report this data to stakeholders, I had to think about my audience and what really would matter more to them. For teachers and students, they're the ones that have been putting in the work. So I would show them an infographic to just see how student investment can impact academic growth. This provides an even more form of motivation for teachers and students. Teachers feel motivated to turn right around and do this again in the next school year, and hey, even do it better. And for students, they're able to really see the seeds that they sowed and what it turned into and what it could continue to become. Now, for our school CEO or our superintendent, I would give them a summary report. I would show them this is where your money is going. The money that they spent towards more trainings, the money that they spent towards incentives, whether it be meals or toys or whatever it was, trophies, the money that was spent, it mattered. It came back and it showed results and it proved that this level of commitment to our students and to our teachers really can end in academic growth. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to my evaluation proposal on the effectiveness of iReady and my New Orleans Charter School. I can't wait to see the work that we do together in the future to make this plan come to life.